What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the NerdBall Fantasy Football Show. I am your humble host, Pete Rogers. What? There goes my pen. And I am joined by my fellow nerds. We have the resident old man, Clark Barnes, and the working girl, Jordan Smith. Guys, how are we doing today?
Doing great, Pete.
Doing excellent.
Good, delightful. For those who imbibe in this show on the YouTubes, which you can, we do post this show to YouTube, so you can watch our beautiful faces talk to you. You might notice that I am clean shaven, and there's a story behind it, which I would like to share at this moment, because I don't have a nerdgasm for this week, and so I'm going to pontificate while I maybe try to brainstorm one. Anyways, the girls turned 1 this last Friday, and I thought, it would be fun. I grew this mustache out for the girls. It's 1 year old, 1 year old mustache. I'll shave it. It'll be like, a nice little 1 year old celebration. Plus, there's that thing of like babies, if they only know you with facial hair, then you shave facial hair. They like takes them a while to get used to you. And I was like, that would be a cute little thing to go through. Well, it turns out not only is that true, it's like very true to the point where Harper, one of my daughters, would not look at me for like 2 hours, which of course I did this during their birthday party where we had a bunch of friends over, and like only Becca was able to be around Harper because if she saw me, she just burst into tears. And then after she settled, anytime she looked at me, she was just giving me the cold stink eye. And it wasn't until like 2 or 3 hours after I had shaved and after she had seen me for the first time that she finally decided that I was worthy of her attention and love. So needless to say, the mustache is coming back and it will never leave for as long as she is alive. So you're welcome, everyone.
Well, I'm glad you learned your lesson.
I did, clearly.
About shaving.
Yeah.
That sounds heartbreaking.
It was devastating. So you will never see me without a mustache ever again once it grows back, because that is what my daughter has told me that she needs to see, and she will get it. So even when she's 16 years old and she's like, God, Dad, I hate your mustache, I'll be like, you know what? 1 year old you begs to differ, and this is all your fault. So that was my ostensible nerdgasm. Let's get into some football chatter. And Clark, why don't you start us off with your nerdgasm? Because it seems like you and Jordan are prepared this week with something to talk about to start the show off.
Well, I like how you're giving the audience the old head fake, Pete, because my nerdgasm is not football related.
Excellent. Classic.
Many of you probably saw on Twitter this week that my boy, Pete, who does amazing design work for NBA jerseys and NFL jerseys and has been doing it for a while. They're always awesome. I mean, on top of all of his hot football takes, it's worth a follow for Pete just for that. Well, he's starting to get a little pub for this. It got mentioned on a couple of bigger, channels or Twitter handles or whatever. I'm so old, I don't know what to call them. So that's my nerdgasm of I've been really enjoying those for at least a year now, but I think a couple of years, and it's just really cool to see you getting some recognition for that. So go check out Pete at Pete M. Rogers with no D on the Twitter if you haven't. A lot of really cool creations coming out of this man's brain.
Thanks, Clark. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's been a whirlwind from that standpoint. And we even NerdBall got mentioned in a Yahoo Sports article being called a popular fantasy football site. So you guys, we've made it. This is it. We can now retire on these laurels of we have created a popular fantasy football site, and that is in writing and in print. So we are big league now. We might have to put that in our Twitter bio, but yeah, Clark, I appreciate that. Thank you. It's been exciting. It's been exciting to have all of that kind of come to some sort of fruition, I guess. And it's still ongoing. As Celtics are on pace for 60 wins, and I'm on pace for 60 jerseys. So good Lord, it's going to be a feat.
Yeah, great nerdgasm, Clark. Always enjoy seeing Pete's creations pop up, and oftentimes they look a lot better than what we actually see. I'm staring directly at the Washington Commanders. But yeah, it's really great. And I love to see it.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it, you guys. Jordan, are you getting us onto football? You going to start off the football chatter?
I do. My nerdgasm is related to ESPN's 2022 NFL Analytics Survey.
Love it.
So they dropped this just this week, just yesterday, actually, December 6th. So this survey was based on responses from members of different teams' analytics groups, and they ended up getting 21 responses back from those groups, from those different groups. I'm not sure what the number is of NFL teams that actually has analytics groups, because I feel like one or two teams probably is like behind the eight ball on that. But who's to say? Anyway, this year's most analytically inclined teams were Cleveland jumping Baltimore. Baltimore was number one last year. We have Cleveland as the most analytically inclined, Baltimore number two, and Philadelphia number three. I'm not really shocked at any of those three. The least analytically inclined, I'm a little more shocked about. Tennessee is number one. Washington was number two. That's not a surprise. And Chicago is number three. Tennessee, I thought, was pretty interesting that they thought that they were the least analytically inclined. I guess maybe they're saying give the ball to Derrick Henry and just let him. That's what our analytics
their offense is constructed around a running back in the day and age where running backs are replaceable.
Yeah. And the biggest part of the nerdgasm here, the apex, if you will, is they asked the question, does momentum exist? And of the 21 that responded to the survey, 15 agreed that there was momentum that exists, while 5 of them did not. And then one of them just abstained from answering, apparently. And one analyst was quoted as saying, just because we can't measure it or we aren't capable of measuring it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I think this is the exact same thing that Charlie said to Judge Reinhold in the Santa Claus. It's momentum is like magic, I guess.
Yep. I hear
but
that.
No, I'm inclined to say that momentum does exist. There's definitely body language and energy around a team. You can feel it, but you can't really quantify it. I'm glad that the analytics groups agree that there's a part of football that's just unquantifiable.
Until we do it, we're going to come up. This is going to be our offseason. We're going to stick Patty on this to create a momentum stat that we can track for fantasy football, so that you can make sure you draft a team that's high on momentum every week and make sure your team performs at its highest.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. It kind of sort of correlates with the tweet I saw today, and I didn't write it down because I didn't think we'd be talking about it, but it was an analyst talking back to a fan who had been rude, saying he can't believe analysts just believe in blah blah blah, and that the analytically inclined analyst said analysts will be the first person to tell you that we don't believe in the analytics. We're trying to hedge our bets against being wrong, and we're trying to use data that exists to inform our opinions. Because, I mean, if you really want to hear someone ramble on, talk to an analyst about some analytical piece of work that they did a year ago and just listen to how they would do it differently and how short strung they were with budget and time constraints and all that stuff. So I just like to throw that out there, that analytics is a great guide and it can point you to a good place to look and some good conversations to have, but believing that everything can be measured or it doesn't exist is a bit of a stretch. So that's really cool to hear those departments come back and echo my sentiment.
Yeah, the momentum is as an athlete myself. I don't know I don't know what you could attribute momentum. I don't know how you would attribute it to, but there's certainly the feeling of you're down on the scoreboard and you're just kind of oh man, this is going to be a lot of work to get back into it. And you confront that, am I willing to put in the work that's required to it? And I don't know if that's attributed to I don't know if you would call that momentum, but I certainly feel like there's a mental roadblock of being up against the wall. And you have to muster the energy to kind of like come back from that. And so I can see if you're down big and the momentum is on the other team, that's a real thing. There's much more you have to overcome and much more work you tend to have to put into it in order to achieve.
And if you don't think there's momentum after watching Tom Brady,
I mean, I don't.
Monday
Literally, that
night
man's the
against the
definition of
Saints.
momentum.
Goodness, he is the argument for QB wins matter some. Like, I don't know how much, but boy,
But
he's good.
but that win was certainly all on Tom Brady's shoulders. Yeah, that was a rather preposterous win. Yeah, momentum is real. It's a debate we will have, and it's a debate that will last the test of time until we're able to quantify, until we stick Patty on it. Once Patty creates a momentum stat, then problem solved.
We're gonna have this nut cracked by middle of summer, guys.
Middle of summer, Patty's on it. He's gonna have momentum broken down to a 3 decimal number. All right, let's get into week 14 fantasy football, and let's talk some must starts this week. And I'll start us off with a guy whom has been a very popular name in recent weeks in fantasy football and is going to only continue to build upon that. Garrett Wilson versus the Buffalo Bills. The Bills defense at times has been, a tough nut to crack. But Garrett Wilson has been the wide receiver 3 in half-point PPR since Mike White has taken over the last 2 weeks. He has burst out onto the scene. Mike White has been throwing the ball all over the field. And the Bills defense, while at times, tough, it was tough to start the year. Now Von Miller is out. They've given up the second most wide receiver points per game over the last 4 weeks. And in each of those games, except for the Patriots game, because we'll just forget that game existed. But in 3 of those 4 games, this is what they gave up. Justin Jefferson was the wide receiver 3. Amari Cooper was the wide receiver 2 that week. Donovan Peoples-Jones even got almost a wide receiver 1 performance. He was a wide receiver 13 when they played the Browns. And then 2 weeks ago, when the Lions played the Bills, Amon-Ra St. Brown was the wide receiver 3. So they've had one receiver in 3 of their 4 games finish a top 3 wide receiver in fantasy that week. Garrett Wilson has been absolutely balling out with Mike White under center. Like I said, this is going to be another game, I think, where you could confidently start Garrett Wilson as an elite wide receiver 1. I don't see him slowing down at all going into this matchup.
I like it. I like the player just generally. I think Garrett Wilson's a near quarterback proof player. Because I don't think he was terrible with Zach Wilson. I just think the offense as a whole was kind of sputtering out, but Garrett Wilson was still kind of getting some yards in there. But yeah, he's a great prospect, and I can't wait to see what he does next year.
Yeah. With whomever the Jets have at quarterback, it's going to be still Mike White, MVP.
That's going to be a huge question, and I'll go to my start of the week, which is more of a shot because I am in the stretches of week 14 bye week.
Clark is in the shot-making business.
Yeah. So staying with that same game, I'm going to say Isaiah McKenzie is an interesting start who might be available in your leagues. He's been super up and down. He's posted a couple of 20-point games, and he's posted some just absolute nothing burger games. He only posted 4 points in the Jets' first matchup with the Bills, but it feels like as the season is wearing on, Isaiah McKenzie is becoming a really trusted outlet. Another, a third receiver to put behind, Diggs and Gabe Davis. So yeah, just a fun shot to take. The Bills offense can be explosive. They're going through a little bit of a weird time right now. There's no team that looks bulletproof anymore, with the Eagles probably being the closest with just a tough divisional loss to the Commanders. The Bills, I think, are needing to refigure things out with Von Miller being gone. And McKenzie he showed he's good enough. So interesting third wide receiver for the Bills and a good shot to take with so many dudes out this week.
Yeah, I'm trying to quickly bring up here. Let's look at I'm trying to bring up the Jets slot corner. So Michael Carter II plays in the slot for the Jets, which is where Isaiah McKenzie plays. 83.9 NFL passer rating is not great. But it's not. I mean, that's something that certainly Josh Allen could take advantage of. He's also, Isaiah McKenzie has a 1.55 per rating, which is 1.55 fantasy points per target. And so if he does get involved, he is efficient with his targets. Like, he will put good fantasy numbers on the board. And like you said, Clark, there's some volatility to him, but in a matchup where he could get some runtime, he's shown that when he is involved in the Bills offense, that he puts up a viable fantasy start. And so if you can take the shot, he's a good guy to take the shot on.
Yeah, getting I mean, Stephon Diggs is still a great player, so he's going to get his. But as somebody who plays with Gabe Davis in another league, I can tell you it's very frustrating seeing a lot of targets go Isaiah McKenzie's way. Isaiah McKenzie will get like 6, and then you see Gabe Dave get 2, and whatever. Now I'm just airing grievances. But playing up against, they play the Jets this week, right? That's what we're talking about. Yeah. Getting the matchup against Michael Carter II in the slot is just much better than the matchup against Sauce Gardner. So whether he's on Stephon Diggs or Gabriel Davis on the outside, I think that's much better for whoever is going to be lining up in the slot. That's Isaiah McKenzie this week. That was kind of the idea last week with Justin Jefferson being able to line up in the slot. So, fire up your Isaiah McKenzies.
Yeah, like that call. Jordan, who's your must start this week?
I went the quarterback route for anybody who is, kind of mourning the at least 1 week, hopefully not more than 2 week loss of Lamar Jackson. This is the time of year where some injuries are going to start to build up. My must start is going to be Derek Carr. I have to look to see what percentage he is owned.
They're playing the.
He's about 93% owned, but only 58% start. And I would say if he's been sitting on your bench, now is a pretty good time to start him. He's playing a Rams team that is 27th in pass defense DVOA. Carr himself is the 11th QB by defense adjusted yards above replacement and 13th by DVOA amongst QBs. Also, Devontae Adams just is cooking. We kind of have some pregame talk already. Jalen Ramsey, Devontae Adams is being asked about him. And I'm not really worried about Jalen being able to hold him up. He didn't track DK Metcalf last week. So I'm not sure if that's going to happen this week and shadow Devontae Adams. And if that's not the case, Devontae Adams is going to eat, which means Derek Carr gets to eat as well. And Devontae Adams is past couple of weeks or so, he's reminding people that he's still a pretty great wide receiver. People are forgetting.
Yeah. Derek Carr is, I don't know if you're looking at Dynasty, but Derek Carr in Sleeper is 65% rostered, at least what I'm looking at on Sleeper. In a non-dynasty format, which
I am looking at Sleeper, but maybe that's because I'm not in a. Yeah, you might be right.
This is just my home league, but yeah. So if he's available, I definitely would say Adam and start him. I'm not lamenting Lamar's absence. I'm lamenting Jimmy G's broken foot and Justin Fields being on a bye. So Derek Carr, he's a top 10 quarterback in per rating. Which is, he's, again, the attempts he's going to get, he's going to be fantasy viable with them. And Devontae Adams connection has been cooking, and you're going to let that cook and trust that to go against the matchup where the Rams, good Lord, man, has there ever been a worse Super Bowl hangover than the 2022 Rams?
I'm sorry. You just reminded me of there's 6 goddamn teams on a bye this week.
Yeah, it's also low-key
the hell out of me
by apocalypse.
But
right
yes,
as we're
you're right.
Vying for playoff seeding.
The Rams sold their soul for a Super Bowl. I think it was worth it.
And I mean, hey,
why not?
That's what everyone says. Everyone says they'd sell their soul for a Super Bowl. So there you go. The Rams did it.
Yeah, that's what it's a rare triple agree. It's a question that's been asked a lot is, oh man, the Rams are doing so bad. And I just keep thinking it's like, yeah, but they did it. They won.
Yeah.
And we say they sold their soul or whatever, but like just salary. I mean, they didn't do anything like bad. So like they went out, made some moves and won. Good for them. And, obviously we've had some pretty good Super Bowl hangovers, the past 4, 5, 6 years, but I don't know. It maybe this one is just the most.
They're still
recent,
drunk,
but this one feels pretty bad.
They're still drunk. They haven't even haven't hit the hangover yet. They are still inebriated next thing in the morning. Sean McVay, is he going to fix Baker Mayfield? Quick, yes or no? honestly, if there's any place that Baker, like, he made Jared Goff look like a competent quarterback. Jared Goff has been playing pretty well recently,
but apparently Jared Goff is a competent quarterback.
Is good? Question mark? Yeah.
Competent, right?
There are some. The rumors are floating that Matt Stafford, since he's already got his desk from what NFL Network, I think, is already in LA. Just waiting for him. Yeah, he might retire.
Yeah.
I don't know. Why can't Sean McVay make Baker Mayfield as good as Jimmy G?
Yeah. I could believe that.
Once he gets the system, I don't know. Why not?
Yeah.
Did Baker go to the Rams, or is this?
Yeah, no. Baker, they signed him. They snagged him off waivers.
Oh, I don't know. Baker is not accurate.
It's fair,
and that is just a killer. I mean,
it's kind of important.
It's Jeff Wilson or Zach Wilson. Like, you have to have an accuracy, or you have to be able to just out athlete everyone. And Baker can't do that. Wilson can't do that. Like, I don't know. I think Baker will play in the league a lot and be a plus backup quarterback, but I think that's it. I think we've seen who he is. It was just a bad draft pick. If someone can turn him around, I still think Sean McVay is a good coach, despite having a tough year. Apparently, offensive line's super important in the NFL. We get taught this lesson every year. Like, yeah, the team's pretty good, except the offensive line sucks, so they are terrible. Oh man, that'll make LA interesting.
Yeah.
Baker.
Hey, it's intriguing. It makes them spicy. Makes them a team that now I like actually kind of low-key want to watch and care about. We'll see what.
Yeah, good fantasy bounce back team for Dynasty. Hopefully
sure.
Matt Stafford does not retire, because he's one of my targets for this offseason. And Cooper Kupp's going to be 30s, coming off another injury. I mean, what a buy he's going to be, hopefully.
Matt Stafford is perfect, Clark, for your dynasty football into broadcasting dynasty league. Like, he's a number one pick there. Him and Tom Brady. Tom Brady's on my dynasty team, and I'm really, really hoping I get fantasy points for when he starts broadcasting.
I think Tom Brady's going to play another couple years. Anyway.
Oh God, I don't know if I want that. Anyway. I have a shot in the dark too for Clark, and this is a shout out to our old fourth podcast host, Nick Bottaford, who now does his own show with NerdBallFF.com. But he's been all on the Chick Okonkwo train this week. The tight end for the tight end for the Tennessee Titans. They're playing the Jaguars. Over the last 2 weeks, he's had a 17.8 target share, which has increased. He's seen his snap share increase. He's become the seemingly tight end one in Tennessee. And the Jaguars have allowed 21.4 points per game to tight ends over the last 4 weeks. They've given up the most yards and most touchdowns to the position during that time. So Chick Okonkwo, I think, is a player whom, if you're streaming the tight end position, like yours truly, because Kyle Pitts is on IR. And who did I start last week? I started someone last week, and now they are Foster Moreau, who I think is a good start this week too. Anyways, Chick Okonkwo, shot in the dark, throw it out. I'm giving you props, Nick. So if this blows up in your face, it blows up in my face too.
Yeah, if Treylon Burks plays this weekend too, I would fire him up as well, because Jacksonville's like a bottom 3 pass.
They started off so good. So their defense started so hot and then just is falling apart. As soon as you get tape on them, then they are no more. Clark, do you have any final must starts? I know last time I skipped over your final must start and I was lectured.
No, just one this week.
Okay.
Glad that Trevor Lawrence didn't get seriously injured, since we're talking Jaguars. He took a very rough hit that turned out to be something relatively minor. So always good to see the Jags struggling mightily, keeping it close at the bottom of the AFC South. Good work.
Good
work.
How amazing would it have been, Clark, if the Texans had won last week against the Browns?
None. I don't share the vitriol that some do. I am unfortunately in the position of, if you're going to suck this bad, you might as well get the number 1 overall pick.
Well, they're doing a great job.
We've committed at this point. So, I mean, there's got to be some interior defensive lineman that front office is just salivating about taking 101. building from the inside out.
I mean, why not? Why go defense? Let's get a center. You talked about how important offensive line is, Clark. Let's get a center 101.
Yeah, that'll probably be the number 4 pick that they're going to get from the Browns.
Perfect.
They'll use something like that on a guard or a center.
Perfect. Well, the Texans are already off to a hot start in their 2023 NFL draft. All right, before we get into top 5, it's time for a quick Dwight Schrute fact of the week, which is really just a trivia question. And it's the trivia question we tweet out on our Twitter. So if you've already seen it, then you will know it. But we haven't tweeted the answer yet. So we're going to see if Clark and Jordan can guess who this is. Only 4 quarterbacks have a per rating of over 0.5, which means they average more than half a fantasy point per pass attempt. Number 1, Tua Tagovailoa, 0.59 fantasy points per pass attempt. Number 2, Patrick Mahomes, 0.55. Number 3, Jalen Hurts, 0.54. Who is number 4? He's averaging 0.52 fantasy points per pass attempt. Clark, you're looking very studious. I'll start with you.
Fantasy point per attempt. So do we count rushing yards?
No, rushing points has been taken out. This is purely a passing standpoint. Per is just per pass attempt. How many fantasy points do they get?
I'm going to take a wild shot.
Kirk
Cousins.
Not a bad guess. Kirk Cousins in per. Actually, no, I correct me. That is a bad guess, Clark.
Okay, good.
Kirk Cousins is towards the bottom of the league in terms of per rating.
Geno.
Jordan Smith. That is correct. Geno Smith is the 4th quarterback with a over 0.5 per rating.
I kept on seeing the stat on the ticker that Geno Smith, I think it was during Red Zone, that Geno Smith had the most 20 plus yard passes this year.
Love it. Joe Burrow and Jimmy Garoppolo both are.
Thank you, Chris Hansen.
Jimmy Garoppolo, pour some out. Both 0.5 fantasy points per attempt. That's your top 6 right there.
Geno Smith single-handedly saving my I'll punt on QB in a 2 QB dynasty league this year.
Well done, Geno. That, I mean, honestly, however you want to debate about most improved or comeback player of the year, Geno should be okay if he doesn't win that. He should recognize that carrying Clark's fantasy team to some sort of relevance is reward enough. I don't honestly know what more you could want in terms of reward.
Shout out to all the dynasty owners who won the Geno versus Drew Lock sweepstakes.
Oh my God. Can you imagine the Seahawks team with Drew Lock? I can't. It would be awful. Ugh. As someone with Tyler Lockett, I would be devastated. All right, before we go, time for top 5. And Jordan is on the spot this week. It's the holiday season. We're getting festive. Jordan's going to give us his top 5 Christmas movies for you to start watching. Because if you're anything like my wife, as soon as Halloween happens, we get right into Christmas time. And then once Thanksgiving is passed, it is a Christmas movie a week at the bare minimum. So if you are crushing through Christmas movies, here's the top 5 list that you should be watching. Jordan, start us off with number 5.
Yes, number 5 is just an all-around classic. It's the first Home Alone. I'm a first Home Alone guy. I know there's a strong Home Alone 2 contingent out there, Lost in New York. I get it. I agree. This is a case where Home Alone 2 should be in one of those conversations of, is the sequel better than the original? But that's another conversation for a different time. So this is written by John Hughes, who, he's the guy that wrote Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, like one of the only Thanksgiving movies, Weird Science. So it's already going to be good. It's for adults, it's for children. It has Joe Pesci kind of originating this old school Hollywood tough guy in a light family Christmas movie. Literally, Goodfellas had just come out 2 months prior to this movie. So I think that's hilarious to think about. So yeah, that's my number 5.
I love it. But first Home Alone, man, as a kid, I would try to set all kinds of booby traps for my parents after watching that movie. None of them worked. They were all mostly like the set where you'd set your toys in a certain position and they were not connected. You were the person doing the connection. so that like I would just move them as I wanted that. So it really wasn't a machine at all. It was just me placing toys in a spot and then they'd all fall. But a truly inspirational film for young Pete.
Yeah, we're off to the banger start. One of my favorite old movies. Was the perfect age to see that and just hope from that day forward that one day my parents would go on vacation to leave me at home. And just, oh, that'd be so much fun.
It's the dream.
And he does like absolutely everything that you dream of doing or dreamt of doing.
Oh,
being
yeah.
left just mountain of ice cream, watching a bad movie you shouldn't be watching, ordering pizza. It scratches
The ordering
every itch.
pizza is like, yeah, I can order pizza without my parent. That was who knew you could do such a thing,
right?
And you don't even have to pay because you start shooting guns or whatever. Number 4.
Number 4, the first bulletin for this movie is that this one is for me. It is This Christmas. It came out in 2007. It is a Christmas movie about a family coming together and reuniting after 4 years apart. Comedy and drama sort of ensue. And it's mostly you're watching for the top tier cast here. It's Regina King, Idris Elba, Loretta Devine, Delroy Lindo, Laz Alonso, Lauren London, Mekhi Phifer. It's just kind of a decoupage of people from just classic Boys in the Hood. What was the movie I was just thinking of? Crooklyn. Just really great classics, all kind of coming together for a modern day Christmas movie.
Also some Chris Brown sprinkled in there, which I don't know if that's a good thing, but Chris Brown is in it.
That depends on your mileage. I didn't bring him up specifically, but
it's fair. That's fair. That is fair. Yes.
You're expanding knowledge as always, Jordan. This is on the list. I have to check this one out this year.
There you go. It's a good one. I've only seen it once, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Number 3.
Number 3, this one might be a little bit more well-known. The Night Before. The more recent, came out in 2015. It's more of an adult comedy. I wouldn't recommend watching this one with the little ones because there is sex, drug use.
My God.
Vomiting in a church. It's all it's all really great stuff. It stars Seth Rogen, so you already know the direction that movie is going to be. Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Anthony Mackie kind of round out this trio of guys. They're all friends from high school, and they're attempting to keep Christmas memories alive and traditions alive. And I feel like it's a little poignant now that I'm a little bit older and you're starting to make traditions with your own families rather than making them with your friends. There's a lot of it's really infused with like some tropes from other classic Christmas movies. Like there's some Home Alone references and references to the Grinch and references throughout to A Christmas Carol. Michael Shannon kind of plays this ghost of Christmas past, present, and future type of character. And I kind of like knowing this and then watching it. It's much funnier because the comic parts are improvised. So I just like thinking about that when I'm watching something like that, to know what they're kind of coming up with on the spot.
It's on my list. I have not seen this. It is on my list. It is a movie 100% up my alley. Becca might not be able to convince to see it, but I'll watch it by myself.
1 for 3. I have 2 new Christmas movies to check out this year. I'm already excited.
This is why we have a top 5 list, Jordan, to get us into the Christmas spirit by watching movies we have never seen to celebrate the holidays. Number 2.
Number 2, Elf. Everybody knows Elf. Most people love Elf. I haven't always been in on Elf, but in more recent years, I've kind of come back the other way. I actually think it's hilarious now. So it's a well-made movie. in a lot of regards, especially when you think about who made it. Jon Favreau directed Iron Man, the live action Lion King, so people trust him with their money. Will Ferrell is just at his apex in this movie because Old School had just come out a few months prior to this movie. And then after Elf comes Anchorman, Talladega Nights, Step Brothers. All of that comes after Elf somehow.
It's incredible.
It just kind of catapults him. He's in the mainstream coming off of SNL already, but this was kind of like his first big thing. Not to mention, I already mentioned Joe Pesci doing the classic Hollywood tough guy in a movie. This one you get James Caan, R.I.P. We miss you, buddy, being the old school Hollywood tough guy in a Christmas movie, and I love that part of it.
Also,
and Mary Steenburgen, I can't forget, playing a mother once again in a Will Ferrell movie.
Yes, that it is a excellent, and might I even say perfect Christmas movie. That is one that Bex and I watch yearly. It's a staple of our Christmas repertoire. Yes. Clark nods. He has seen
a winner. Absolute winner. Yep.
Number one, Jordan. Wrap it up.
Pins and needles
and
for number one.
Number one, Christmas is about family and doing things for loved ones. And this number one movie is for my mom, her favorite Christmas movie. It's 1988's Die Hard, starring Bruce Willis and Alan Rickman. It's a Christmas movie. I'm not trying to be cheeky about it. I genuinely believe that it is a Christmas movie. It features an office Christmas party. The dad Bruce Willis is literally going to LA to visit his family for Christmas time for the holiday. There's Christmas music within it. We all remember our guy Argyle in the limo listening to Run DMC, Christmas in Hollis. I can't think of any other. There's Christmas music playing.
It's a Christmas movie,
party, et cetera, et cetera.
It's a Christmas
movie.
It is
a Christmas movie.
I don't understand how people argue it's not a Christmas movie. It's 100% a Christmas movie. A movie set around Christmas that ends with a Christmas message is a Christmas movie. What more do you need?
Not to mention, this movie also just established an entire new subgenre of action movies where you had Die Hard on something else, Die Hard on a plane, Die Hard on a train. Like, there were tons of examples,
and all of them starred Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson cornered the market on it.
It spawned classics like 48 Hours and, was Beverly Hills Cop after Die Hard? I mean, it was all in that beautiful period of action movies when Clark was 10 and the bad guys were all bad and they got shot, and it was awesome.
It was definitely
and
a
Russian
very
frequently.
Yeah. It was definitely a very that we did not have the like nuanced villains that we have now in today's films. It was very much, this person's evil and they will die at the end of it in a very gruesome and horrific way. And hey, sometimes that's what you need in a movie.
And as a child, one of my favorite TV dads, Carl Winslow, makes an appearance in this movie. He does
Bill Johnson.
Yeah.
You're forgetting, though, Pete, that Jeremy Irons in Die Hard 3 has a very good reason to be mad.
That's true. But I don't remember Alan Rickman. I think Alan Rickman just wanted to blow it all up.
Oh, money.
Well, money. Money is the root of all evil, Clark. That's a Christmas story we can all take to heart.
Yep.
Excellent top 5 list, Jordan. It is, if you have not seen all 5 of these films, of which I have not seen 1, Clark's not seen 2, get on it and make sure you watch them all for the holiday season.
Hit me up on Twitter. I have about 25 recommendations.
I figured this was the perfect top 5 to send Jordan's way because Jordan has this list off the top of his head. I'm sure he took no prep. He was like, "Oh yeah, I can give you my top 5 right now." Probably could give me your top 25, but we'll save that for another show because that's all we got for you this week. Make sure you rate and subscribe to the podcast on your podcast platform of choice, and go follow us on Twitter at NerdBallFF. You can follow myself on Twitter at Peter M. Rogers. Follow Clark at NFL Clark and Jordan at Jordan_Smith27. Make sure you hit him up with all of your Christmas movie requests and questions. He will make sure to answer every single one and give you the perfect list for your holiday season. And of course, make sure you're checking out all the amazing content that we're putting out over on the site, NerdBallFF.com. Until next week, my fellow nerds.